I have this rule. It's a personal rule. I've had it for years. And the rule is this: I don't argue with stupid. Now, when I say stupid, I'm not talking about people because honestly, we've all had our moments, right? We've all at some point believed some stupid shit or believed things that in hindsight are a little silly. Okay. When I say I don't argue with stupid, I'm not talking about people. I'm talking about ideas. Ideas that are just so not rooted in facts or completely disconnected from reality. I just don't argue with it. It's a major energy drain. I just don't have the headspace for it. And don't get me wrong, I love a good debate. I really do. Like heated exchange of ideas, especially political discussions. I love it. But if I feel like a conversation isn't rooted in reality, I just don't engage. As I always joke, this isn't aligned with my wellness plan. And for a long time, this worked. It was pretty easy, actually. I don't argue with strangers on the internet. That's a golden rule. And in my life, I have to admit, I'm mostly surrounded by people with a pretty similar worldview than me. So I've been able to avoid these debates. But a few weeks ago, I had to reflect on my whole don't argue with stupid theory. And that's because I caught up with an old friend, someone I've known for decades, someone I consider a pretty good friend. And I won't go into all the details just to be respectful, but let's just say the conversation was bat shit crazy. Like this friend was always a little bit into the fun conspiracy stuff, like the ancient aliens type, harmless conspiracy stuff. That conversation that I had with my friend recently, that was next level. This was someone clearly getting the news from weird sources, someone clearly deep down in conspiracy rabbit holes, parroting really ugly rhetoric. Basically, someone who spends way too much time on the internet. And my first reaction was just like, what the actual fuck? Then, honestly, it just made me sad. Like, dude, what happened to you? And that is when I had to confront my comfortable little theory, right? Because if my rule is I don't argue with stupid, what do we do when it's a close friend? What do we do when it's a family member? What do we do when it's someone that we don't want to lose? And unless you're planning to live off grid without Wi-Fi, which right now, honestly, legit sounds appealing, but we can't just avoid these conversations forever. We can't avoid people who share different views forever. You work in an office, you have family holidays fast approaching. So what can we do when we still have to live with each other? This is exactly what I want to talk about today. Ready? Let's dive in. Hey, I'm Noemi, former queen of bad habits and corporate go-getter turned well-being coach and personal growth junkie. And in a world full of overwhelming wellness advice, we're here to cut through the noise. This is your space to master healthy habits, transform your mindset, own your well-being, and design a life you love on your terms. We're ditching the highlight reels and embracing the whole messy, imperfect journey towards becoming our absolute best selves. You're the author of your own story. So are you ready to write the next chapter? Let's go, and welcome to Unwritten Potential. Okay, so the first thing we have to get our heads around is something that feels maybe a bit counterintuitive. It is not about the facts. I know it's so easy to think you can change someone's mind with facts, but it's a lie we tell ourselves. It's a lie that's reinforced by our education system, right? We're taught that the best argument is the one backed by the most data, the most research. We're trained to believe that if we just present a solid case with evidence, the other person obviously will automatically see the light, like a reasonable human being. But we know that it doesn't always work this way. And I've been deep in the research on this over the weekend. And what's so clear is that it isn't about facts at all. And particularly when dealing with people who have a tendency to go deep into those conspiracy rabbit holes, it isn't about the facts at all. It's about a few core things that we all need as humans. And when we feel like these needs aren't being met, we start searching for anything to fill that void. So the first need is the need to understand. Our brains are literally wired to find patterns, to make sense of the world. So when a big, scary event happens, like a pandemic or a recession, and the explanations are really complex and uncertain, our brains get anxious. They hate that feeling of not knowing. A conspiracy theory, on the other hand, no matter how wild it is, it offers a simple, neat story. It provides clarity when there is none. The second need is the need for control. When we feel powerless, a conspiracy theory gives us a sense of urgency. It makes you feel like you have special, hidden knowledge, the knowledge that others do not have. You're not just a passive victim of a chaotic world anymore. No, you're in on the secret. And that creates an illusion of control. The third need, and this is so important, is the need for belonging. When someone feels isolated or lonely, believing in a conspiracy can create an instant community. It connects you to other people who see the world the exact same way you do. You're now part of a tribe. And that feeling of social connection is one of the most powerful human needs there is. So what does this actually mean for you? It means that when you're arguing with your uncle over the holidays and you're throwing facts and data at him, you're not actually debating the topic you think you are. You're not just challenging his ideas, you're unintentionally challenging his need for understanding, his sense of control, and his feeling of belonging to a community. Like, for real, you're attacking his entire psychological safety net. And when people feel attacked, they don't listen, they double down. This explains so much about why those conversations, if like me, you've had them, go absolutely nowhere. And this is the tragic irony of all of this. While a conspiracy theory might promise clarity, control, and connection, we know the reality is often the complete opposite. It leads to this underlying current of anxiety, a feeling of being constantly on guard, that they're in danger. It can make it really hard to trust anyone, friends, family, doctors, institutions. It can make it so you can only connect with people who believe the exact same things you do, which creates a very, very small, a very isolating social world. And that's the sadness that I felt for my friends, watching someone you used to know, someone you care about, getting pulled into that cycle. So if arguing with facts doesn't work and actually make things way worse, what's the alternative? What can we do? What can you do? And this is the bit that changes everything. You have to change the goal. And listen to me, because this is crucial. The goal is not to win the argument. Let me say that again. The goal is not to win the argument. I know it's hard. I love a good argument and I love being right. But a single conversation is not going to undo deeply held beliefs that are meeting a person's core needs. It just won't. So stop trying. Here's a new goal maybe you can explore. With friends and family, the goal should be connection. At work, the goal is to get the job done professionally. That's it. This simple mental shift will save you so much energy and so much headache. So how do we actually do that? How do we focus on connection when we're feeling attacked? I go into this in a bit more detail in this week's newsletter, but I want to share a few of the most powerful tools with you right now. Here's your toolkit for these conversations. Okay, tool number 1, master the graceful dodge. You are never, ever obligated to get into a debate. So learn to pivot, my friends. If a family member, your aunt, starts talking politics at dinner, just pivot, gracefully dodge the conversation. I hear what you're saying. Oh, it reminds me of that fun family trip we took years ago. Do you remember when, whatever? You acknowledge and then you pivot to a shared memory. How do you master the graceful dodge at work? Pivot back to work. Okay, Peter, that's one way to look at it. Now, to keep us back on track, I actually had a question about the quarterly report. It's a superpower, my friend. Okay, maybe that sounds a bit passive aggressive. Maybe I need to master the graceful dodge, but it is a superpower. Tool number 2, choose curiosity over confrontation. When people feel heard, they get less defensive. So instead of attacking their point, try to understand the feeling behind it. Ask a genuine question like, what was it that first got you interested into all of this? Or, hey, it sounds like you're really concerned about X, Y, and Z. Tell me a bit more about that. Like, you're not agreeing, you're just listening and giving the person some space to be heard. It de-escalates everything. And tool number 3, be a human with boundaries. You have the right to declare certain topics are off limits. You can say it politely, but also firmly. And with family members, that might be, I really value our relationship, and I found that conversation about this topic just usually doesn't end well. So can we agree to talk about something else? It's about protecting the relationship, not the behavior, but then just moving on. And those 3 tools, dodging, getting curious, and setting boundaries, can transform these encounters. The goal isn't to silence them. It's to protect the connection and your own peace. So what did I learn from all of this that might be useful to you, my friends? My old rule, don't argue with stupid. It's not wrong, but it's probably incomplete, right? It has no playbook for when the person is someone you don't want to lose. Learning that the real challenge here isn't about winning. I'm going to try to keep myself in check, remind myself that it is not about winning the argument. It's about deciding in that moment whether the relationship is more important than the argument, whether the relationship is more important than being right. And sometimes protecting what you have means letting the point go. So if you take nothing else away from this today, take this. Change the goal. Stop trying to win. It's not going to happen. Focus on connection or professionalism if it's at work. And most importantly, protect your own peace. If you found this useful, in this week's newsletter, I go even deeper, covering when it's best to just walk away, and also what to do if a conversation at work kind of crosses a line and needs to be escalated. You can find that and way more at go.unwritten.coach/18, or the link is in the show notes. So please tell me, have you had a conversation like this? What was it like for you? Hit me up. I would genuinely love to hear it. You can email me at noemi@unwritten.coach. I absolutely love receiving your messages. If you have sent me a message, please know I absolutely love that. Thank you so much if you're still here for listening. I will catch you next week. Take care.